Does it surprise us that the divorce rate now in the United States is well over 50%? 10 years ago, it had reached 50%. It's well above 50% now. But is it possible that people really do not understand what marriage is really meant to be, because at the same time, we don't really know how to interact even with one another? How do we interact in a loving, intimate relationship? And so most of the couples that I counsel, the issue really comes, and this is really harsh, and it's not a judgment, it's simply where people are. Two things. One is, depending on how our family exhibited the example of marriage, that's how we've learned. So it's either been a really good experience and we've gotten something out of it and we understand what it looks like, or it's been a really bad experience and men, boys become their fathers, women become their moms. No one ever teaches us what it means to be married. No one teaches us, as Jesus is trying to do here, that you have two individuals fully created by God, graced by God, in a mutual relationship where we are meant to give ourselves completely one to another. No one teaches us that. It's all about the wedding day. It's all about being together and bringing all that together. And I'm not saying that as just a generalization. There are plenty of couples I have married that have been very focused, very dedicated, really wanting to get it right. And some of them still, even now, call me with issues and concerns that they have. And I'm glad that they do, because conflict in a marriage, I think, is a hopeful experience, because if given two individuals willing to actually work together and share a value, it could bring the relationship to a whole new level. But in Jesus' day, this was clearly what it is. And women are really put down, the men are everything, there's no equality, and Jesus is trying to correct that. The second thing for us in our society today is, if it doesn't feel good anymore, I just don't want to do this. And regrettably, in every relationship, in every single relationship I know of, there is always going to be some level of conflict and misunderstanding. It just happens. Things happen. Things come together. It's just what it is. But if people don't have the desire to set things right, to apologize, to try and engage in a mutual conversation going forward, and everyone's just about, well, I don't like the way this feels, so I'm done, I'm out. You know, that is part of the problem. Marriage is a commitment. Marriage is a relationship. And marriage means that the other person's not going to be like you. They shouldn't be like you. They shouldn't control everything. It's meant to be a mutual journey. And so I think here Jesus sort of turns it all upside down. And I don't think this gospel passage is just for his audience. I don't think it's just for his time and place. I think it's for us as well. I think the gospel is very much relatable to where we are today, because so many of us think about marriage just as a civil institution, where Jesus is at a wedding in Cana. This is part of his culture. God is present at the wedding. And here he is correcting visions and thoughts and considerations that are just totally gone amok because of how the culture is. So Jesus here is clearly protecting women and raising them up in society, which would have shocked them entirely. Now, if you notice, there's a shift that happens in the story, and all of a sudden there's these kids. And the children are gathering, and all of a sudden you're saying to yourself, how did we get here, that all these kids are coming in? The fact of the matter is, these are probably two separate stories that Mark puts together. But notice, if you will, the validation of why putting the two things together. Children have no value in Jesus' day. None. They are, most of the time, you know, their lifespan, if they live past the age of 7, it's an amazing thing. The death rate at this time is ridiculous. If they're girls, they're even less valuable than if they were boys. Notice, if you will, that as they come in, what do the disciples do? The disciples are culturally trained, and they stop them and they tell them, enough, get out. You're not welcome here, right? And what does Jesus do? He stops that and he corrects it, And not only does he pay attention to them, but did you notice Jesus actually embraces them? He embraces the children. And everyone standing around would have said, why is he doing that? These are just kids. Why is he paying them any attention? So Mark connects these two together once again to show us as a Christian community that those who are ostracized, demonized, pushed on the outside, those who are just considered less, are the ones that Jesus pays attention to, and his ministry was about raising them up so that people would look at them and see them differently. Women and children still today, I think, are very honest arguments for why we still need to hear this gospel, because as far as we have come, there is still a long way to go in recognizing and honoring women and children in our society. But also at the same time, you can sit and you can reflect and you could find so many different types of communities, much like women and much like children, that would fit into the story. You know? Talk about minorities. I mean, that is so incredibly energized in our society and still a problem. And people are really very pleasant about it, and they watch what they say and everything else, but there's still this undertow that happens in the midst of all this that we have to be sensitive to. There are still issues between the rich and the poor, and that still exists, where, you know, we seem to forget those who have less than ourselves and provide for them as well. And so there are plenty of examples and communities that need to still be addressed, that we take a look at how Jesus dealt with these groups and we say to ourselves, who are those people in our society? And so for us today, as we look at all this, we have to be honest and say, if we are not embracing each and every person as the gift, God-created gift that they are, then it's not an example that we should be following. It is not of Jesus Christ. It is human institution that has tried to design ways of controlling and isolating and dictating how God is, when honestly we already have the example in Jesus Christ. God bless you. Hi, just wanted to thank you so much for watching the video. We hope that what you're coming away with is inspirational and a guide for your life. We're really glad you could be part of our community. Please be sure to like and subscribe to this channel so that you can be continually updated with our new music videos, our new sermons, our new services that are published, so that you could stay connected with us. Thanks so much again. God bless you.